God, it's tough being a Weeknd fan sometimes. So I just saw the latest film from Trey Edward Shults starring The Weeknd, also being written by him, starring Jenna Ortega. Hurry Up Tomorrow. This film was one that I actually was very excited about after seeing the initial trailer. I said in my trailer reaction that it was one of my most anticipated films of the entire year. I honestly wanted to give Abel the benefit of the doubt because The Idol didn't really go as well as he probably hoped, and I didn't really click with it either. However, there were certain elements of it that made me think if he honed his craft a little bit more, he might be able to do something quite interesting, and I was hoping that Hurry Up Tomorrow would be a little bit more of an evolution and a step forward in the right direction for Abel in terms of what he wants to do in terms of cinema. I was also excited for this movie because this is the return of Trey Edward Shults, who last directed Waves, which is kind of a monumental film for me personally. It was the film that inspired me to start a Letterboxd account and start writing reviews on that platform. So, because the film gave me such passion for it that I just really wanted to talk about it. I absolutely adore that film to this day, and I think it's a 5 out of 5 masterpiece the way it plays with genre, and to see him come back with this type of film was an interesting choice. It definitely had all the makings of being a disaster, but I trusted the talent behind the camera to really deliver an experience that was worth watching and talking about. And in brief glimpses, I did find that with Hurry Up Tomorrow. I especially think the first act of this movie is fairly solid overall. I think Abel is giving a decent enough performance where he's showing that he has improved a little bit over his one in The Idol. He's playing a character that is directly tied to himself and this new rebirth that he's trying to do through his music and through the way that he perceives himself now. There's this frantic energy that it exudes, and it does remind me of the first half of Waves, where it's really stressful. The camera's always moving, swiveling around. It's music blaring, strobe lights going off. There's a couple of scenes from Abel's concerts that were excellent. I love the way they were shot. I love the way they were performed. It looked like it wasn't at an actual real concert, and that level of authenticity adds to the experience for sure. The sound is incredible during this sequence. It's very immersive. It can be very loud, but I think it's all working and harmonizing decent enough, even if it can be a little bit too chaotic that it's disorienting. We see brief glimpses of a character played by Jenna Ortega, who is basically this nutty stalker type of character who is pretty unhinged from the jump, and as the movie continues you get to see a little bit more of that play out. And I always thought that this character was just not very well placed within the movie. It would always take me out of the moments that were really working for me. Barry Keoghan is also in this film, and I think he's pretty good in this the whole way through. He is a very talented actor and performer, and no matter what he's given, he's going to give a pretty decent performance, and he does do that here as this kind of stereotypical drug-addicted manager that wants to exploit Abel for all he's worth while kind of pretending to be his brother and friend. And there's this interesting underlining of it all connecting to Abel's real life and some of the controversies he might have been involved in, such as when he lost his voice and just cancelled a show. And it even talked a little bit about him missing parts of the Australian leg of his tour, which I was very disappointed by when that happened because I had tickets and I couldn't get to see him perform. So yes, I was pretty disappointed by that. But the film does go into it a little bit as to why some of these things are happening in its own way, playing within the narrative, even if it is all fictionalized. But I think that is fairly interesting. But honestly, as this film progresses, I start to feel the wheels fall off, and it gets to the point where this becomes very cringy, very laughable, and just unintentionally funny. through many sequences when it really needs to punch home. Out of the 3 Trey Edward Shults films that I have seen, I think this is by far his weakest work to date. I think the film, just as a narrative, doesn't work at all. It is jumping to far too many places where it just starts to feel like a bit of a mess. And the whole thing just can't escape the feeling that this is just a vanity project for Abel to help further promote his incredible album, because the music from that album consistently plays throughout the movie and it plays an integral role in the narrative. And honestly, there are some scenes in this movie that almost ruin some of those amazing songs that he has made, because they're so cringy that now when I listen to that, I'm not going to be thinking about the music and the emotions that it makes me feel. I'm going to be thinking more about some of these cringy ass scenes that play out and be laughing. And that's just not what they had intended. And it's not what I really wanted to see from this movie. And it's such a disappointing experience, I felt like, as this film just had nowhere to really go of any substance. I think the film starts going to some surrealistic moments, and once that happens, and everything that happens after that, it's where it becomes just laughably bad. You see some moments that I'm sure everyone's going to make fun of as the year progresses, stuff to do with Abel's music and explaining what it means and talking about the impact of that music, as well as a scene at the end of this movie which just felt like High School Musical, Disney Channel stuff, just with this dark tone. I mean, it was incredibly corny and just bad. I thought the ending of this movie sucked. I'm not gonna lie, I was very disappointed by that ending. People in my theater were laughing, the 5 people that were there. It's just a real shame. I'm a massive fan of Abel and his work. He's my favorite musician. I love pretty much all of his songs from all of his albums. And just to keep seeing him try to go into filmmaking and acting when it clearly isn't working is a damn shame. And it's not the outcome that I had hoped for. And I don't think it's the outcome that many of his fans would hope for. I don't really recommend this movie. I don't think it's a good movie. I don't think it's well written by any means. I really do believe that this is just a vanity project overall. And even if you kind of dug it at first, it's just going to lose you so quickly as you begin to realize that this has nothing of substance worth offering to you. And it is such a shame, because you do see some glimpses of potential here and there, like that first act, like most of the cinematography, which, like most Trey Edward Shults movies, it looks great, and there's this experimentation with aspect ratios that I quite like. There are certain shots and certain moments of these performances that I think really worked. I didn't like Jenna Ortega's character, and I was very mixed on her performance. But there was a moment here or there where you could take a still or a moment from her performance and you place that into a better film, and you got something compelling on your hands there. And it's just a shame that it's been put into this movie where it's not really utilized in the correct ways. Hurry Up Tomorrow to me is a bit of a failure, even though there is some moments of interesting and intriguing narrative developments and interesting style. It just can't help but fall flat on its face. And as a score, I'm going to have to give Hurry Up Tomorrow a 2 out of 5. I just think it's a poor film, and it's not one that I'm particularly interested to rewatch because I don't think it has anything else to offer. And those are my thoughts towards Hurry Up Tomorrow. If you've seen the movie, let me know what you think about it in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.